What's going on, everyone? I was just gonna do my first book review, Epic of Gilgamesh. Um, Basically, well, for one, he was created by the gods, or a goddess, Aruru, which is creation goddess of the Sumerians. It's based off Sumerian tablets, which basically, if you don't know anything about Sumeria, they predate the Jews, the Egyptians, only by a little, as far as I know. Pretty much first civilization, mankind, or, well, not first civilization, but, civilization. Before then, there was just Neanderthal and stuff. But they invented writing, farming, beer. They invented beer. Mesopotamia, Sumeria, I can't remember if Sumeria is before or after, but anyways, this is basically about a god, kind of like a Nephilim. He's a giant, and a lot of people look at that and think he's holding like cats or something. It's actually lions, because that was, like the Bible says, when giants walked the earth and the sons of God came down and mated with the wives of man and stuff. But so Aruru basically created Gilgamesh, and he's like a god, king of Uruk. But I did think it was funny. It predates Christianity, and the Sumerian tablets in general predate Christianity and Judaism. And she creates Gilgamesh out of clay. And I did think that was kind of funny when you read the Bible and you read the whole Adam and Eve thing, and he's created from clay, and it's like, wonder where they got that from, you know. But basically, he's king of Uruk, and he's not really a bad guy, but he does use his kingly power to his advantage. He's like going around just basically having sex with all the women of the town or city, Uruk. And all the guys, of course, are just irritated with that. You know, some king going around and he's just banging your girlfriend or your wife, you know, the mother of your children. But so they basically start bitching to the gods, and the goddess, they start bitching to the gods, and they're like, look, this dude's huge, he's a giant, he's going around, he's just banging all our wives, and God knows how many offspring and bastard princes there are in Uruk. So the gods are like, they're like, can you make an equal or something? You know, calm this dude down. So they create Enkidu, which is like this. He's a man, but he's like this Sasquatch man. Like, he's just hair all over his body. Like, he just lives in the woods, and the animals, he can like talk to the animals and understand them, and they understand him. And so he's just living out in the woods. He's like a madman, just eating raw meat and fruits and berries and stuff like that, and vegetables. And so they create Enkidu, and this like shepherd or something comes across him, and he's like terrified and freaked out and runs back to Uruk, and he's like, there's this maniac living out in the woods. You know, we got to calm him down and civilize him and stuff. So they get this prostitute from the temple of Ishtar, which Ishtar, a lot of people don't know, is derived from like Lilith, the first wife of Adam. I actually talked a tiny bit about her in my last video. But she's like, and if you know anything about Lilith, she's very like scandalous, very sexual person. Like, the reason why Lilith got banished from the Garden of Eden was her and Adam were having sex, and she wanted to be on top. And Adam was like, nah, I'm the man. Like, I gotta be dominant. And it's like, so he's like boo-hooed to God and stuff and was like, yeah, she wants to be on top. And God's like, alright. So they kicked her out, and she basically became like a she-demon, a succubus. But Lilith and Ishtar are the same thing. And you'll notice that with mythologies around the world, is that a lot of different gods and goddesses from different cultures or different religions back in the day, they were religions, are actually the same gods and archetypes and stuff. But which I don't understand why you wouldn't want your woman on top. Like, hey, that's cool, you know. But apparently, I don't know, Adam, he's a little weird, I guess. But anyway, so they take this prostitute from the Temple of Ishtar and send her to Enkidu. And I kid you not, this is in the book. This is in the cuneiform, the Sumerian tablets and stuff. He bangs her for like 6 days, like without eating, sleeping, drinking. He's never had pussy before, so he just bangs her for like 6 days. And it tames him. She gives him a piece of her clothing, and he kind of makes like this little loincloth thing, and he ends up going to like this area with shepherds and stuff, and she shaves him down. He takes the bath, he cleans up, looks like a normal human being, doesn't look like Sasquatch out there like a maniac anymore. But he goes to Uruk and ends up fighting Gilgamesh. And Gilgamesh, he's a giant, and this guy's a giant, and he's used to just beating up the town folk and stuff, and whoever challenges him, he's like, alright, well, let's fight, and beats him and does what he wants to do. And this guy comes along, and they are evenly tied. So he's like, alright, I can't beat you. What's your name? And they become like best friends. They become like a tag team, like a duo. So basically, after they become friends and stuff, he goes and they go to fight Humbaba. They want to go on an adventure, and they fight Humbaba, which is like this huge ram creature. But so they arm themselves to the teeth and go fight this ram creature and destroy it. And apparently Enlil is in control of that. That was his monster, his creature. But Enlil is like, this goes a little bit deeper. Enlil is Enki's brother, and they're dueling brothers. Like, if you believe in the ancient astronaut theory, Enlil and Enki like came down to Earth. They were the Anunnaki who altered the human race, the caveman race. They added their own genes and were doing all sorts of genetic experiments. And Enki was the one that spliced the genes with alien genes and created Homo erectus, like modern man. That's probably what I believe right now, but who knows what I'll believe within the next 10 years. Back in the day, I used to believe in, Christianity. I strayed from that and got into witchcraft a little bit, and then was like, yeah, maybe there's something to it, but then I was agnostic for a while. I just simply was like, I don't know. And I still am kind of agnostic, but I've been studying ancient astronaut theory, and it seems to make a little bit of sense, but to me it does. It makes pretty good sense. But anyways, Enlil is the brother of Enki, one of the Anunnaki, And that's getting into a whole other subject that will be, I'm sure, another video. But basically, they killed his creature, and he wasn't too happy about that. But he goes back. Gilgamesh and Enkidu go back to Uruk, and Ishtar, Lilith, the one I just told you about, she's in love with Gilgamesh, and she wants Gilgamesh, and he doesn't want her. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't say anything about him still banging the town people's wives and stuff, but he doesn't want her. He probably just doesn't want to settle down in general. I mean, he's a king. He's a young king. He just wants to do whatever the fuck he wants to do. So he denies her, and she gets pissed off, and he even kind of gets smart with her and starts bringing up her track record on her former lovers, and she had transformed a couple or just murdered a couple. Like, he's just kind of like, nah, woman, I ain't getting with you. But so she gets mad, and I can't remember wholeheartedly 100%, but I'm pretty sure that she kills Enkidu with like sickness or something, and it just destroys Gilgamesh's world. Like, he's depressed and crying and tore up about it, just like screws him up. And it screws him up that he's mourning his best friend's death, but it also messes him up because he realizes mortality. It clicks. He figures out mortality, and it's like, it sucks. It really does suck. None of us got to choose, whether we wanted to be on this earth or not. And it is kind of a cruel joke played by our parents. And I'm a dad, so I realized I played the same cruel joke on my kid, and I don't know. I mean, I don't dislike my parents for doing it, but when you think about it, it is kind of like, oh man, I gotta die someday. Like, we all gotta die someday, and that's horrible. And I think about it sometimes, and it's like, it's little moments of torture. I'm not obsessed with it like Gilgamesh, obviously, but you do think about it, and you're like, I'm mortal. I gotta die. We gotta die. We got to die. And so he becomes obsessed with it after seeing his best friend die. Like, it's just kind of clicked. Like, I have to die someday. So he goes on this journey for immortality, which is pretty cool. And it gets back into a little more biblical stuff. Like, I'm not a Bible basher. I try not to be a Bible basher. But when you're looking at earlier text, and I've read the Bible 6 times, cover to cover. My dad was a preacher. I read the Bible every day. I was a Christian, so I mean, when you're reading earlier text, and it's the exact same thing as the Bible, like, but you notice that the Bible changed stuff, and the Bible is later fact. I know that bothers people, it tortures them, and it's like, I'm not Bible bashing. This is America. You can believe in whatever you want, but he goes on this quest for immortality, and he's seeking out Utnapishtim, which is Noah. Basically, there was a flood back in the day, and actually there's another text that talk about the Great Flood. I don't have it. I haven't read it. I can't remember the name, but you can look it up on Google. It's out there. There is another text predating the Bible with the flood story, and it's like dead on the exact same flood story. I mean, even down to him sending out birds and building the boat, and it's the same thing. I mean, whether it might offend people, it might bother them, but look, Mesopotamia and Sumeria is ancient Iraq, and I know we went to war with Iraq, and that's like anytime Iraq is brought up, it's like a negative to Americans, just that negative Iraq, But whether we like it or not, they were here first, them and the Egyptians. But this dude, Utnapishtim, is Noah, basically, and he survived the Great Flood. And I mean, the story is exactly the same, so I'm not even going to go into it. If you know the story of Noah, it's the same thing. They switched a couple bird species around, that's about it. And when he survived the flood, the gods, like, he built this sacrifice, this burning altar and stuff, and the gods swarmed it like flies. It literally says swarmed it like flies. And he was like, him and his family were the last remaining people on earth, and he found favor in them, or yeah, so they favored him. They liked that, so they gave him the gift of immortality. So, and by the way, the Great Flood story is in every culture, every ancient mythology, and I've been reading Native American mythology. It's there. Been reading, I read this book about Atlantis, and it goes through, it's seriously myth after myth after myth after myth after myth all over the world of this Great Flood. So you got to wake up and realize that yourself if you haven't already. But Gilgamesh goes to find Utnapishtim, and he's got to go through all these weird trials and stuff. There's one, it's about like scorpion men. I mean, I read it, I understood it, didn't try to figure it out what that meant, but there's these gigantic scorpion men. He goes into like this weird, like dark place where he's going through darkness for days, comes out the other end, and he actually like gets a glimpse of the Sumerian afterlife, and it's kind of unsettling. I mean, it's not heaven and it's not hell. It's like this house of bones, and the souls there, they still get to wear their kingly crowns and stuff, but they eat dirt, they eat sand. I mean, that's not as bad as like other religions or belief systems to where, you have to burn forever or something like that, or you go to heaven and hang out with your grandma for eternity. That sounds fun. But it's like this weird house of bones and dirt, and they eat dirt, and he sees the afterlife, and he's like, this is fucking horrible. Like, so he gets back to Utnapishtim, and Utnapishtim's like, yeah, there's this fruit that makes you immortal, but you have to dive down into the sea, dig it up from the bottom, pull it up, eat it. And he goes on this little scuba diving adventure and pulls it up, and I'm not sure if it's actually like a literal fruit that they're referring to, or if it's just metaphorical, symbolism. But I mean, it could have been a literal fruit that they used to eat and think it made them live longer. So he's on, and he gets on the shore with this fruit, lugging it along, and he's tired, he's exhausted, so he just lays back and takes a nap, and this serpent slithers up, and this is like another thing that I was reading. It was like, serpent, fruit, Genesis, like the Bible, but obviously it's before, and the serpent eats the fruit and becomes immortal, which a lot of the ancients, the Native Americans, they believed the serpent was immortal. And when you see serpent art and stuff, usually the serpent is like a symbol for immortality, because they believe that they were immortal when they seen them shedding the skin, the old and the new skin, or shedding the old and slithering into the new. They thought they were immortal. They thought that they left behind the old body and lived forever, which we know now they didn't, but I could see definitely how a primitive mind person would look at that and be like, oh my god, it just left its old body and has a new one. But yeah, so it ate the fruit. He's not immortal, and he dies. And I don't know, I think, like, he just kind of accepted it. I can't remember exactly, but he just, I don't know, we all gotta die, you know? And we just gotta live every day to the fullest. And when that little voice in the back of your head starts reminding you that you have to die and starts telling you negative things, you just gotta kind of ignore it. Just be like, no, we ain't doing this, you know? I'm living. Whether I have to die eventually someday, we all have to. And that's the key to the story, is that we all have to go, you know? And you just got to deal with it. You got to live. You got to be happy. You can't be depressed all the time. You can't be reminding yourself, you know, of your mortality. You just have to, you just got to live, man. You just got to keep going. And I don't know. That was Epic of Gilgamesh. Hope you liked it.